Hello everyone and welcome back to Southern Wealth. I hope you guys are doing very well. If you do enjoy the content, please consider dropping that like and subscribe. As you guys know, it greatly helps the channel. So I was actually not going to post today, but so much stuff has happened that I feel like that I should do it. Yes, so I'm going to give you a summary. I'm going to cover what happened today in the markets and also in the White House. I'm going to cover crypto generally and basically that we closed the CME gap and then came back. I'm going to cover the update on the SEC case versus Richard Hart and my core coins. So as you guys know, Pulse Chain, PLSX, X, incentive token, and then of course Hydron and Icosa, which are derivatives. And I'm going to cover also an update on the hacking of Ethereum, give you a little bit of an idea of what's happening overall in the crypto space. My God, this is going to be like 10 hours. And finally, I'm going to give you two secrets. I'm going to tell you two secrets that no other YouTuber will ever tell you, but I will tell you. And I would appreciate if you would watch the entire video until the end to find out what those two secrets are. So let's start. White House, everybody knows, big confrontation between President Trump and Zelensky and JD Vance. It was actually quite interesting in my point of view because this is actually what happens in real meetings. It's just that you don't see it on the outside. You see, do you think that when Putin and Zelensky meet, do you think it's a soft complimentary meeting? Do you think when Trump meets with the head of the Taliban, do you think it's a nice, friendly meeting? No. We all know it, that there are meetings which are very good and there are meetings which are very unpleasant. You just saw an unpleasant meeting in front of you. Now, there's been a couple of things. Now, let's tie this into the market. Look, I understand both sides of the equation. And I understand also some of the pushback. In my point of view, and this is for people who don't live in the US, my experience with people that live in the US, and you can see this on many videos on YouTube, that people go to colleges and ask these questions. So colleges, I mean, these are people, getting a master's degree or something. You show them a map and you show them Germany, and they don't even know that where Germany is. Now, what I'm trying to say, I'm not insulting them. And what I'm saying is they're very absorbed in the things that are interesting for the US. A conflict between Ukraine and Russia is interesting, or was interesting, for a few entities very connected to the US government, if you get what I mean. It's not interesting for the majority of the people out there. And I don't understand if people actually just get triggered with Trump, or they just go crazy. I really don't understand. Like, think about this. I'm just going to give you a very clear example. Trump says we're going to pull out of NATO, or he threatens he's going to pull out of NATO because European countries are not contributing what has been agreed. So in case you don't know, every country that belongs to NATO has agreed to spend at least 2% of the GDP on defense, and basically the US for decades has carried that load, plus a few European countries, to be honest, Poland, UK, Greece from time to time, Estonia. So there are countries that have done regularly, have put in the 2% GDP, but it's by far mostly the US. So he says, yeah, we are threatening, yeah, maybe we're gonna leave NATO because we are tired of carrying the weight of the world, right? Basically, we don't want to do it unless also the Europeans are doing it, etc. So what is the response of many European countries? Oh, the US is threatening to abandon us, so we are going to spend more money on defense, which is exactly what he wants. So I'm listening to this and I'm like, so you're going to punish him by doing what he wants. This is how blinded by rage they get. He understands, unfortunately, that this is a conflict that's going to end one side only. There's no other way around it. Now, I get it. I mean, this is not fair. This is, I get all of that's not the point. The point is this has a clear path towards an end, unfortunately. And I mean, even the ceasefire situation, even if you think the other side is gonna break the ceasefire at some point, if you get a month of ceasefire, it's a month where your troops are alive. That's my humble opinion. I'm not a strategist. No, I'm not so educated in this thing, so I don't want to be unfair. But I'm thinking, if I'm a soldier, if I can get a week of ceasefire, I'm going to take it. But I mean, maybe there's something that I'm not seeing here. But the point is, let's go to the markets because that's much more objective. What I'm trying to say is a very unfortunate situation, and I only see one way that this is going to end, and and now the Americans will look at where all the money has gone to. They just, if they suspend aid, then that's it. So yeah, we need to see how that develops. I hope they can come to a sort of an agreement, but this needs to be, I mean, I think this is, I'm going to tell you this, I'm going to be the most surprised person on this planet if they get a deal in which Ukraine gets to keep all their territory, or basically Russia does not get substantial amounts of land. I'm gonna be very surprised, like the most surprised person on the planet, if that is the case. But what is relevant, I mean, for our lives, if you wanna look at it from a market perspective, is that the market is starting to price in Trump's unpredictability, if that makes sense. So the tariffs, as I've said, I've said this months ago, the tariffs are getting less and less effect. Just like when the positive news is coming, it gets less and less effect, and the negative news coming gets less and less effect. Also, the market sold off in the confrontation for a while, but then ended actually quite strong, which means there was a sell-off, in my view, there was a sell-off from the shock, and then people start thinking, this may push into an agreement, which it doesn't matter if we find the agreement fair, unfair, that's not the point. The point is, this actually is more likely now that this resolution of the conflict is very, very serious and it will need to happen, even if it's not the best outcome that we hope for. It will have a conclusion. That's my point. So the markets ended up recovering. So I thought that part was quite interesting, because this was a perfect setup to throw the markets into a complete disarray, particularly on a Friday evening, right? As you guys know, there has not been a Friday without a negative surprise coming at that time of the weekend. So that part was good. Now, moving into the markets in general, you saw TLT going up. That's very good. You saw the dollar coming down. That's also very good. The dollar stabilizing. It's a little bit up, which is not ideal. But even the dollar is start to not react very aggressively to the upside on these things. We're starting to see gold selling off, which is good because gold is linked to risk off. And so we're starting to see, and also it is the first time that we get a lower inflation number by the PCE, which is the Fed's favorite metric. So we have a lot of things that are looking more positive, let's say. So it's not everything negative. So February came to an end. Obviously, Ethereum didn't reach to $4,000. That's clear. So that's a deviation of the cycle. What's going to happen? Is it going to pinch back to it, to the 2017 fractal? We need to see. We don't know. Yesterday, I mentioned about the CME gap around the 78. Now, according to CoinMarketCap, Bitcoin went as low as 78.2. Which didn't close the entirety of the gap, but closed it almost entirely. So I think, from where we are today, there's a very good chance that we've bottomed in this correction. It's around a 28% correction from the all-time highs, which is in line with previous cycles. Can we go back and retest that bottom and do it, and maybe even put a little smaller bottom? Yes, that's very possible. I would give it around 30% chance, but bear in mind that that's a possibility. But much further than that, I don't think so. And there's a very good chance I would give it 70% that we've seen the bottom. Now, that doesn't mean that next week we're going to be at 100K again. Okay, so that you don't go from there to there. Okay, so keep that in mind. But we got basically a very strong demand over there. And what I wanted to say, there's a very good coverage by a Twitter. I saw this today on Somi's channel. I really advise you to go there. It has a lot of good stuff. In which basically there was an analysis, and I saw this in Crypto Banter as well. So maybe the person that posted it got it from Crypto. I don't know, but Crypto Banter made. You guys know what I think about Crypto Banter. I'm not a big fan at all, but he actually made a very good video. And if you look on chain during these sell-offs, who's been selling Bitcoin? Holders, so people that are holding Bitcoin for a year or more, sold virtually zero. The people selling is within 6 months the vast majority. So short-term holders, people that are here for a while. People that maybe don't even like crypto. Sorry. People that maybe don't even like crypto, but they just try to ride the Trump trade. Complete non-believers. Complete inexperience. Because I always get this question in my comment section. How do I know that are the short-term people that are selling and the frightened people and the leverage traders and all of this? That's your good example. The on-chain analysis is very clear. All the sellers are within less than a year of holding Bitcoin. They are all short-term minded. They were all here to make a quick buck. Most of them must even hate crypto, or a lot of them may hate crypto, and they're just here to try to ride the wave. They have no concept of cycles. They have no idea of corrections. Most of them, I suppose, come from the stock market, and they got their cheeks clapped. Learn it the hard way. That's it. It's really simple. Also, as I've said before, we've had 28% corrections very often during previous bull markets. Even the golden year of 2017, the Valhalla year, the year that everyone remembers as, you know the movie Remember the 5th of November. This was like remember the 2017 bull market year. Like this magnificent, and it was a magnificent year. You don't get me wrong, but you had 30% plus corrections. That's the game. What did I tell you? And I actually got a very good response from this in my previous videos. What is the best asset class? What is the best performing asset class in the history of mankind? Crypto. Okay, here you have the best performing asset class in the history of mankind. What's the price you pay for that? Volatility. 95% or 90% people can't take it. They can't. So they suffer. I mean, it's really that simple. You learn a lot by looking at on-chain analysis. You see these long-term whales, like these whales that have been in crypto for like 7 years or plus, right? Their pattern of behavior is amazing. Once Bitcoin drops 55-60% in the bear market, they start accumulating. Every time you have a massive dump, they accumulate huge clips during the bear market. Then they accumulate quite religiously throughout the recovery year, which is the year after, and they basically put bigger clips when the market is in fear, extreme fear, and extreme fear, but they don't sell anything almost. Then the year of the halving, they start purchasing the big corrections. So the clips are no longer regular, they are more spaced out, depending on big sell-offs. And then in the bull market year, they may buy a few big sell-offs, but most of it's selling for, I assume, lifestyle purchases, like real estate, like cars, I don't know. But they sell quite a lot, particularly as the extreme greed really pumps harder. And then they become dormant until Bitcoin drops 50-55% in the next bear market. And guess what? They succeed. I'm not advising anybody. I'm just telling you what they do. So today is a very happy day. The judge has dismissed the SEC accusation against Richard Hart, PulseChain, PulseX, and the likes. As you guys know, I've disclosed my retirement coins, what I call my core coins, retirement coins, and I've said PulseChain, PulseX, Hydron, and Echoes. And I've come here, and the incentive token, and I've come here, and I've said, I've disclosed during the week of the SEC filing the case against Richard Hart, and basically the ecosystem dropping 70% overnight. And I came here and I made that disclosure because I believed. So I did it in the darkest hour possible, and I reinforced it during the red notice by Interpol. So basically, nobody could accuse me ever of waiting for pumps to basically talk about the coins that I liked. I know I did it at the worst possible times, and actually I got quite some, crap in the comment section for doing it. Respectful, don't get me wrong, but kind of, hey, you're an idiot kind of stuff. And today the judge dismissed, a couple of hours ago, dismissed the accusation against the SEC. Now this is very important. It's not the SEC dropping the case. It's a judge saying, you guys have no basis here. Much more important. Now I want to put a little bit of, and by the way, PulseX, which is the equivalent of Uniswap, as at the time of this recording, flipped Pulse, which is quite amazing. So basically the ecosystem has pumped 70%, 30%, 40, 50%, depending on the coins. And I want just to say something very quick. And this is not me trying to be a jerk off or anything. I'm also very euphoric. I also feel the heat in my groins, all of the same as you guys. There's no question about it. I just want to remind you that XRP had a big pump after the SEC case, and then it sold off quite a bit because the macro setup was not ideal. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but we are not in an ideal macro setup. We just came out of a brutal correction, massive liquidations, crazy stuff. So bear that in mind. That this is a possibility. Number two, the SEC has the right to appeal the dismissal. They have 20 days to do it. If they don't do anything in 20 days, the whole thing gets dropped automatically, but they do have 20 days to go for it. Based on their recent behavior, with all the other cases, which are much worse than Richard Hart, my gut feeling is that they will let it die. But, in all fairness, they have the ability to fight it. So that's also reality. I think it's important for people to be aware so then they don't get disappointed in case the worst case happens, if you understand what I'm trying to say here. Now, I think we've suffered enough. I think we should have nothing but good news going forward. 100% in agreement with all of you. But I want for you to be aware that this is a scenario. Now, Ethereum and the hackers. Ethereum, around 400,000 Ethereum were stolen. Only 100 to 120,000 or so are left. So that's 25% of the initial steal is left. I said, and this is true, many times the hackers end up holding because they cannot get rid of them, but these guys are very professional. They've been laundering it over multiple places. But they are done, 75% is gone, and 25% remains. So hopefully by next week, it's all taken care of, and there's nothing else but bad memories. Okay? So let's see where that takes us from here. Also, other important things, business cycle is picking up. Bitcoin completely dropped into the drop of liquidity that came from the stronger dollar in quarter 4 2024. So we completely caught up to that drop in liquidity, and that liquidity has been steadily rising, and it's almost at the same level of November 2024, which means now we should start capturing the upward movement. Can we go choppy here? Can we consolidate? Can we go up? Can we still have some sell-offs? As I've said, we can even retest the 78K. That's a possibility. But one of the good things is that altcoins, measured under others versus BTC, has kept quite the good strength in these sell-offs, particularly the last one yesterday evening, which tells me that really a huge number of the weekends are gone. And the consensus is there's no altcoin season ever again, almost, which is good. This is the mentality that people need to have so they can come and buy our bags later. If they are all convinced, then that means they are all positioned. If they are all positioned, then they can only sell. If they don't have any, they can buy. That's basically the scenario. As I've said, multiple, massive, good fundamentals for crypto have happened on the background, but people are not paying attention because the candles are red. But I predict that within the next couple of months, when prices are really going nicely, they will say, of course it's going up. Look at this and that and the other. And then I'm going to come here and make a video and say, hey, the things that you're saying that is going up, all of those things happened in January and February. The issue is you were not talking about them because the candle was red. So for all the people that love the CME gap of 78, that we indeed, I think for the most part, closed, there's a CME gap at 94 for Bitcoin. Will you show the same level of expectation or similar level of enthusiasm about the 94 gap as you had for the 78? Because by the same rationale, you should. And now we come to the two secrets that I've discussed during all the beginning of the video. What are the two secrets? I'm going to tell you something. There's no influencer on this planet, or maybe very few, that will admit this to you. What I've just mentioned about us repeating the cycle, about us having corrections in line with the cycle, about us closing the CME gap, about us going up in the next few months, about altcoin seasons and all of that, is that hope and cope? The secret is, yes, is nothing but hope and cope. Is looking into the past and hoping and coping with the bad prices that somehow we're gonna just magically repeat what happened and we're all gonna go to Valhalla. It's straight hopium and copium. No, I'm not a genius. No, I'm not better than anybody else. I just have a lot of hope and cope. So that's secret number one. There's a bigger secret, and that's number two. All the people that made it in crypto had the highest levels of hopium and copium. All of them. The only way they succeeded with drops of Bitcoin from $30 to $2, of drops of $1,400 to $200 and the likes, drops in Ethereum of 95%, the only way those people made it is because they had levels of hopium and copium off the charts. That's the secret number two, and by far the most important. It's the only way. Love to embrace the pain, because the pain and the stress and the big sell-offs will show if you are a talker or if you really believe what you say you believe. And with that, thank you very much for your support, guys. Really appreciate. Sorry a little bit about the coughing. Don't forget, like and subscribe is the only thing that I ask, and I'll catch you in the next one.